The story of America is a tale of transformation, a journey from a scattering of colonies to a global superpower. This transformation was neither swift nor easy. It was a complex process marked by struggle, perseverance, and an unyielding spirit. It began long ago with brave souls crossing vast oceans, seeking new beginnings in a land unknown. These early settlers were driven by dreams of prosperity, freedom, and the hope of a better life. They left behind everything familiar, venturing into the unknown with nothing but their courage and determination. Europeans, driven by dreams of opportunity and religious freedom, landed on the shores of North America. They came from various backgrounds and countries, each bringing their own customs, beliefs, and aspirations. The Pilgrims, for instance, sought a place where they could practice their faith without persecution. They encountered a land already inhabited by Native American tribes, people with their own rich cultures and histories. These indigenous peoples had lived on the land for thousands of years, developing complex societies and deep connections to the land. The arrival of Europeans marked the beginning of a profound and often tragic transformation for these native communities. The first permanent English settlement, Jamestown, was founded in Virginia in 1607. This settlement faced immense challenges, from harsh winters to conflicts with Native Americans. Despite these hardships, Jamestown became a foothold for further colonization. Others soon followed, each colony a microcosm of hope and hardship. Colonists established settlements along the eastern seaboard, each with its own unique character and challenges. From the rocky coasts of New England to the fertile plains of the South, these early communities laid the groundwork for what would become the United States. Life was difficult, the wilderness unforgiving, but the colonists persevered, their numbers slowly growing. They cleared forests, built homes and planted crops, transforming the landscape and creating new opportunities for future generations. They carved out farms and towns, their destinies intertwined with the fate of the land itself. The land provided sustenance and shelter, but it also demanded hard work and resilience. The colonists' relationship with the land was one of both dependence and transformation. As decades passed, the colonies developed distinct identities. Each region evolved its own economic, social, and cultural characteristics, influenced by geography, climate, and the backgrounds of its settlers. These differences would shape the future of the nation. The North, with its colder climate, fostered a culture of shipbuilding and trade. The rocky soil and harsh winters made large-scale farming difficult, so the northern colonies turned to the sea for their livelihood. Shipyards and ports became bustling centers of commerce and industry. The South, blessed with fertile soil and warm weather, turned to agriculture, relying heavily on slave labor. Vast plantations grew tobacco, rice, and indigo, crops that required intensive labor. The reliance on enslaved Africans created a deeply entrenched system of racial inequality and exploitation. This stark difference would later become a source of great division. The economic and social disparities between the North and South set the stage for future conflicts, as the nation grappled with issues of freedom, equality, and human rights. Yet a common spirit began to emerge, a sense of unity forged in the face of adversity. Despite their differences, the colonists shared common challenges and aspirations. They began to see themselves not just as residents of individual colonies, but as part of a larger community. The colonists, though separated by vast distances, faced common challenges. They dealt with harsh climates, food shortages, and threats from both the wilderness and hostile forces. These shared experiences fostered a sense of solidarity and mutual support. They relied on each other for trade and defense, gradually developing a sense of shared identity. Trade routes connected the colonies, allowing for the exchange of goods, ideas, and culture. In times of danger, they banded together to protect their homes and communities. This nascent sense of unity, however, would soon be tested as tensions with the ruling British Crown grew. The imposition of taxes, restrictions on trade, and the presence of British troops in the colonies sparked resentment and resistance among the colonists. The seeds of revolution were sown, waiting for the right moment to blossom. Revolutionary ideas spread through pamphlets, speeches, and secret meetings, as the colonists began to envision a future free from British rule. The stage was set for a dramatic and transformative struggle for independence. By the mid-18th century, the relationship between Great Britain and its American colonies had become strained. The colonies, spread along the eastern seaboard of North America, had developed their own identities and ways of life, distinct from their British counterparts. This growing sense of individuality and self-reliance was at odds with the increasingly heavy-handed approach of the British government. The colonists, accustomed to a degree of self-governance, bristled under increasingly restrictive British policies. These policies, which included various taxes and trade restrictions, were seen as an affront to the autonomy the colonies had enjoyed for decades. The British government, seeking to exert more control and raise revenue, failed to recognize the growing desire for independence among the colonists. Taxes, imposed without colonial consent, were a major point of contention. The Stamp Act of 1765 and the Townshend Acts of 1767 were particularly egregious in the eyes of the colonists. These acts imposed taxes on everyday items and legal documents, leading to widespread protests and boycotts. The colonists argued that they should not be taxed by a government in which they had no representation. The cry of "no taxation without representation" echoed through the colonies, a rallying cry for freedom and self-determination. This slogan encapsulated the colonists' belief that they should have a say in how they were governed. It was not just about the taxes themselves, but about the principle of self-governance and the right to make their own decisions. In 1775, tensions erupted into open conflict with the battles of Lexington and Concord, marking the beginning of the American Revolutionary War. These skirmishes were the result of years of mounting tensions and were the spark that ignited a full-scale war. The colonists, though outnumbered and outgunned, were determined to fight for their rights and their future. Colonial militiamen, poorly equipped but determined, faced off against the might of the British Army. These early battles were characterized by the bravery and resilience of the colonial forces, who used their knowledge of the local terrain to their advantage. Despite their lack of formal training and resources, the colonists' resolve and ingenuity allowed them to hold their own against the professional British soldiers. The fight for independence had begun. The war was long and brutal, testing the resolve of the colonists. Each battle, each skirmish, was a testament to their unwavering commitment to the cause of liberty. The hardships they endured, from harsh winters to shortages of supplies, only strengthened their determination to achieve independence. The war was long and brutal, testing the resolve of the colonists. The British, with their superior numbers and resources, believed they could easily crush the rebellion. However, the colonists' guerrilla tactics and the support of local populations made the conflict far more challenging for the British than they had anticipated. Yet, under the leadership of General George Washington, the Continental Army fought valiantly. Washington's leadership was instrumental in keeping the army together through the darkest times. His strategic acumen and ability to inspire his troops were crucial in turning the tide of the war. The Continental Army, though often outmatched, managed to secure key victories that boosted morale and kept the hope of independence alive. The Declaration of Independence, signed on July 4, 1776, declared to the world the colony's intention to break free from British rule and establish a new nation based on the principles of liberty and equality. This document was a bold statement of the colony's resolve and their vision for a new kind of government, one that derived its power from the consent of the governed. The Declaration, eloquently penned by Thomas Jefferson, proclaimed that all men are created equal and endowed with certain unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These words captured the essence of the American spirit and laid the foundation for the nation's future. The Declaration was not just a statement of independence, but a manifesto of the values and principles that would define the United States. These powerful words resonated far beyond the shores of America, inspiring future generations to fight for their own freedom. The Declaration of Independence became a beacon of hope for oppressed people around the world. Its message of equality and self-determination influenced countless movements for independence and human rights in the centuries that followed. Against all odds, the Americans prevailed. Their victory was a testament to their resilience, courage, and the strength of their convictions. The war had taken a tremendous toll, but it had also forged a new nation, united in its pursuit of liberty and justice. With the help of France, they secured a decisive victory at Yorktown in 1781, effectively ending the war. The French alliance provided crucial military support and resources, tipping the balance in favor of the American forces. The victory at Yorktown was a turning point, leading to the eventual British surrender and the end of the conflict. The Treaty of Paris, signed in 1783, formally recognized the United States of America as an independent nation. This treaty marked the official end of the Revolutionary War and the beginning of a new era for the American people. The United States was now free to chart its own course, guided by the principles of democracy and self-governance. The American experiment, a daring gamble on the ideals of self-government, had begun. The fledgling nation faced many challenges, but the spirit of independence and the commitment to democratic principles would guide its path forward. The legacy of the Declaration of Independence and the Revolutionary War would continue to shape the United States and inspire future generations to uphold the values of freedom and equality. The victory over Great Britain brought with it a new set of challenges. The euphoria of independence was soon tempered by the harsh realities of self-governance. The fledgling nation faced numerous obstacles that threatened its very existence. The newly independent states, loosely bound by the Articles of Confederation, found themselves in a precarious position. The Articles, while a significant step towards unity, were fundamentally flawed. The Articles of Confederation, drafted during the war, proved too weak to address the needs of a growing nation. The central government lacked the authority to enforce laws, regulate commerce, or levy taxes, leading to widespread inefficiency and discontent. There were disputes between states, economic instability, and a lack of national unity. States operated like independent countries, often clashing over borders, trade policies, and currency issues. The economy was in shambles with rampant inflation and a crippling national debt. Recognizing the need for a stronger central government, leaders from the states convened in Philadelphia in 1787. This historic gathering aimed to address the weaknesses of the Articles and create a more robust framework for governance. This gathering, known as the Constitutional Convention, would prove to be a pivotal moment in American history. Delegates from 12 of the 13 states attended, each bringing their own perspectives and concerns to the table. The delegates, including such luminaries as George Washington, James Madison, and Alexander Hamilton, debated fiercely over the shape of the new government. These discussions were often heated, with deep divisions over issues such as state representation, the powers of the executive, and the role of the judiciary. The result was a remarkable document, the United States Constitution. This new Constitution sought to balance the need for a strong central government with the protection of individual liberties and state sovereignty. This document, ratified in 1788, established a federal system of government with a balance of power between the national and state governments. It introduced a system of checks and balances designed to prevent any one branch from becoming too powerful. It enshrined the principles of separation of powers, with a legislative branch to make laws, an executive branch to enforce them, and a judicial branch to interpret them. This structure was intended to ensure that power would be distributed and that the rights of citizens would be protected. The Constitution, however, was not without its flaws. Critics pointed out several issues, including the lack of explicit protections for individual rights and the potential for federal overreach. One glaring omission was the lack of explicit protection for individual rights, a concern that was addressed with the addition of the Bill of Rights in 1791. These first 10 amendments were crucial in securing the support of those who feared a too powerful central government. These first 10 amendments to the Constitution guaranteed fundamental freedoms such as speech, religion, and the press. They also provided protections against government abuses, ensuring that the new nation would be one where individual liberties were respected. The new nation, though far from perfect, had laid the groundwork for a more just and equitable society. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights provided a framework that would evolve over time, adapting to the changing needs and values of the American people. As the nation grew and faced new challenges, the Constitution proved to be a living document, capable of guiding the country through times of crisis and change. Its principles of democracy, liberty, and justice have continued to inspire generations of Americans and people around the world. The journey was far from over, and the Constitution would face numerous tests in the years to come. But the foundation laid by the framers in Philadelphia in 1787 remains a testament to their vision and commitment to creating a government of the people, by the people, and for the people.